That was Mike Johnson making history by becoming the very first House Speaker to address British Parliament. And he talked about our shared history and friendship as we honor and celebrate America 250. He also talked about overcoming our challenges together, which was a real hat tip to the situation we find ourselves in with Greenland. Let's bring in national security and military analyst and international relations expert, Dr. Rebecca Grant. Dr. Grant, thank you so much for joining us. What are your takeaways and thoughts when it comes to this speech that we all just listened to together?
Oh, first, I absolutely loved this speech. I was so proud to be an American listening to Speaker Johnson. He's a wonderful man, and I think he really set exactly the right tone. To me, the business takeaway came towards the end of the speech when he said, we have no intention of doing this alone, and that the U.S. needs Britain more than ever. He also was pretty clear in making some wonderful statements about free speech, quoting George Washington on indispensable morality and religion in government. But he was clearly there to firmly shake hands with the British people and to chart a way forward together, you know, specifically mentioning NATO, mentioning AUKUS and the submarine cooperation, and saying, hey, we're going to do this together. It was really Speaker Johnson at his best. He's so good in those moments here in the U.S., and now he's done it for us over there in the House of Parliament. Fantastic.
And he invoked Churchill 4 times. Anytime you're trying to appeal to the British people, you can never go over the number of times that you invoke Winston Churchill. But there were a couple of points that I think really stood out to me. And I'm going to sort of put this into a speech with 2 themes. One was this notion of calming the waters. But 2, Rebecca, Dr. Grant, was this notion of we need to remember what the foundation of both England is, and then by extension, the United States. And do you think that message will resonate with the British people, specifically with regard to British Parliament? Because as we have documented on this show and throughout the network, England is sort of having a crisis of its own with regard to open borders, a lack of a national identity that is definitely influencing its place on the world stage and its ability to be a proper ally to us. Your thoughts?
Oh, yes, Britain is at a moment of crisis. And Speaker Johnson was statesmanlike, but he was also strong. You know, he walked into a parliament that's got a 100-seat Labour majority. You know, wouldn't that be nice? And quoted Margaret Thatcher, Lady Thatcher, on the subject of freedom. And everything that he said, whether it was on what they call migration crime, the need for secure borders, talking about the philosophy of the schoolroom becomes the philosophy of government, you know, quoting Abraham Lincoln. He sent a very clear, dignified message about the need to continue our values, return to our foundations, and to take on all those things that Britain is really, really struggling with in a way that the British have simply just never seen before.
This was about a 30-minute address that the House Speaker just delivered to Parliament. And in the very beginning of it, this is the moment that will be played over and over again today, because the elephant in the room is, of course, the situation in Greenland. Here is the House Speaker saying 3 words, calming the waters. Watch.
My mission here today was to encourage our friends and help to calm the waters, so to speak, and I hope to do so. As the Prime Minister said yesterday, let us look to agreement, continue our dialogue, and find a resolution, just as we always have in the past. And in that process, I am confident that we can and will maintain and strengthen our special relationship between these 2 nations.
The U.K. is, of course, subject to that 10% tariff that the president just announced for being a part of the group of nations that sent troops to Greenland. Separately, the president is going to be in Davos, Switzerland, talking to world leaders about this very issue. So where do things go from here?
Well, and behind the scenes, Keir Starmer has said, no, he does not expect there to be, you know, some invasion of Greenland. Trump has set the stage. He has put Greenland at the top of the agenda where it belongs. Britain understands the importance of Arctic security in the high north. They have forces that exercise there. They're part of that crucial strategic Arctic circle. And I think what we see now is it's time to negotiate. But President Trump has said what he wants, and the least he will get is a lot more defense of Greenland and a recognition of this. So this is really good. I'm glad to see Speaker Johnson. He can calm the waters, whether it was with Marjorie Taylor Greene, Hakeem Jeffries, or now calming the waters in our special relationship.
But Dr. Grant, it is important to note that while he did name check China and Russia as the reason that we need to work together with regard to Greenland, he never said the word Greenland. He's sort of referred to the Arctic.
Yeah, that was interesting.
A very, very generic approach to that. You mentioned something that I think is so vital, and it was the mentioning philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation is the philosophy of government in the next. And there was also that sense of that Reagan-esque line, we need to recover confidence and resolve in itself, the notion of American democracy versus communism there. How vital is that message, not just to British Parliament, but to our nation on the whole at this, what the Speaker referred to, pivotal moment in history?
Well, talk about calming the waters at a time when we see such turmoil caused unnecessarily in Minnesota. And, Britain has its own versions of turmoil as well. What he says is we really have to remember our foundational values. Those, of course, came from Great Britain and were brought to their fullest flower here in the United States. But he's right. We have to rebuild that every single generation. We can never take freedom, free speech, and prosperity for granted. The British know that as well, and it's true here in America.
Yeah, I just can't get over how this speech is just coming at such an interesting and perfect time with everything, of course, going on with Greenland and our countries and the president being in Davos. So he's also going to be overseas. And there's going to be the signing of the second phase of the Gaza the board that will oversee the Gaza peace process. And also, it is his one-year anniversary of being in office. So just reflect on everything that is going on right now, the lead up to it, and what you believe the most important things that still need to be done when it comes to national security.
Well, President Trump has in 1 year done an incredible reset of the national security scene, from bombing Iran's nuclear facilities to Venezuela, to all the disagreements and wars that he has settled around the world. But there is a lot more to be done. The high north and Arctic security in Greenland is one thing. But we also, of course, have the problem of Ukraine. And while that did not really come up directly in this speech, Britain has been an incredibly staunch ally to Ukraine, providing weapons, a leader within NATO, and that will very much be discussed as well, because Britain is seriously scared of Vladimir Putin and a resurgent Russia. And we know that as big as the threat of China is, Russia is also a major problem. And of course, China, Russia together, that remains the big one to take on.
A speech by Speaker Mike Johnson full of quotes. America first does not mean America alone. A strong America is good for the entire world, and a strong UK is as well. And quite frankly, the most important one, we will continue to be friends. And for those that don't know, Speaker Johnson has a background as a constitutional law attorney. Typically, they are in the appellate sphere. And when you think of attorneys, you think of trial attorneys. We bang the table, we yell, we gesticulate a lot. Appellate attorneys are different. They use calm, reasoned discussion, and that's what you saw on display right there.
And a real student of history
100%.
as well.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.